Top two tips for China, India, probably the same for both markets. The first would be commitment. You've got to be committed for the long term and take a long-term approach to everything that you do. And the second would be to have some clearly understood objectives and a strategy to achieve those objectives. A lot of that would be around relationship development, getting to understand the customer, and then getting to understand what the customer needs, and then pitching or building your response accordingly. And the third key point would be really go into it with open eyes, have fun. Because if you can't have fun when you're going into a market and developing a market, you'll never be successful. Share the joy of doing business in the market with people, and they'll react accordingly. Relationships are very, very important, and it's establishing a personal relationship, a personal rapport with customers, as well as a business relationship. And I think the business relationship comes secondly. Unless you've got rapport, you can get on with people, you're not going to progress to a business relationship. Do you develop relationships the same way in India as you do in China? I haven't really thought of distinguishing between the two, because I just regard relationships as being of critical importance in both markets. It's something you have to do to be successful in either place. Volume and scale is an interesting issue for New Zealand companies to address. Customer selection is very important, so that you're only looking to identify those customers that can fit your ability to supply. And if that means you take a very narrow geographic look at a market, fine, go that way, it makes sense. The other part of scale that I think we have tremendous opportunities to follow through on in New Zealand is all about collaboration, and it's working with other like-minded New Zealand companies to achieve the scale that a customer requires. One of the important things there is to be able to work with companies that have similar products, so that suddenly you can start providing a full product range. And if you can provide a good product range, it makes it much more difficult for a customer or a competitor to come in and knock you off. Pricing and negotiations in China, which I'm much more familiar with than I am about India, and the comment made to me quite often is that negotiating is a game. You have to understand the game, you have to understand the rules. And part of that comes from relationship development. So if you understand what's important to your potential customer, you build in all of those things to the price when you eventually start talking about price. And the immediate reaction will be, well, you're far too expensive. And then you can say, well, okay, I've provided all these services, what's not important for you? And they'll say, well, you can take that out, you can take that out, you can take those things out. Fine, then you can come up with an amended price. And the comment, if you play that sort of negotiating game, there's a tendency for a number of New Zealand companies to go in best price, sharpen pencil, and they've got no room to move. If you adopt this game approach, you can start with a much higher price, you can negotiate down, but you'll probably end up with a higher price than might otherwise have been the price that you've gone in on a cost plus approach.